For the record, my name is Ben Weber, City Councilor for District 6, and I'm the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Labor, Workforce, and Economic Development. Today is November 26, 2024. Today's hearing is being recorded. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, FiOS Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.labor@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all counselors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. Individuals will be called on in the order in which they signed up, and we'll have 2 minutes to testify. If anybody's here to testify and they haven't already, they can sign in on sign-in sheets near the front door. If you're interested in testifying in person, use the sign-in sheet. If you're interested in testifying virtually, please email our central staff liaison, Megan Corrugetto, at Megan, it's MEAGAN Corrugetto, CORUGEDO at boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket number 0475, an order for a hearing regarding the biannual review of the Boston Employment Commission and Boston Residents' Jobs Policy. This matter was sponsored by myself, Councilors Brian Worrell, and Madam President Rusi Louis-Jen, and was referred to the committee on March 6, 2024. Today, I am joined by my colleagues in order of arrival. Councilor Aaron Murphy, Councilor Ed Flynn, and Councilor Liz Braden. I have received an absence letter from Councilor Enrique Pepin, so that's it. I will say, given this is the second hearing on this subject, I would like to suspend the opening statements and get to a presentation from our panel. We're being joined today by Jody Sugarman-Brazen, who is the Deputy Chief of Worker Empowerment for the City of Boston, I get that right, and Christopher Brown, who is the Boston Residents' Jobs Policy Manager with the Office of Labor Compliance and Worker Protection. Having said all that, I'm going to hand it off to our panelists to present data on the BRJP, and then we'll go to questions and comments from my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
There we go. Thank you, Councilor Weber, and thank you to all the members of City Council. We're very happy to be here today to give you our biannual update. We're going to go through some of the data, talk about some of the work that we've been doing to try to improve impact of the policy. So I'll start, see if I can get this to work. Great. So our first slide, hi, Chief. Have a seat. Is just the slide that we show every time we come here, a little bit about the fact that we are part of the Worker Empowerment Cabinet. The Worker Empowerment Cabinet was created in fall of 2022, and our goals include setting the city's future policy and vision for workers, regulating, overseeing, and improving workplace conditions and health for workers, and expanding economic opportunities for workers through quality job skills training and pipelines. In April 2023, the Boston Resident Jobs Policy Office was moved from the Office of Supplier Diversity to the Office of Labor Compliance and Worker Protections, and we have been working since that time on enforcement. The Office of Labor Compliance and Worker Protections is the central resource for workers. We protect and promote labor standards and policies that create fair workplaces for all workers. And the list of the ordinances that we enforce is here. In addition to the Boston Resident Jobs Policy, we enforce the Boston Jobs, Living Wage, and Prevailing Wage Ordinance, the Boston Wage Theft Executive Order, and while the Inspectional Services Department enforces the Construction and Demolition Safety Ordinance, we provide a significant significant amount of support with technical assistance and free health and safety training, and our Workers' Rights Initiative provides workers with information and resources they need to protect themselves on the job, and that includes webinars, workers' resource clinics, and free multilingual Know Your Rights training. So I'll move on. Chief, do you want to present about the dashboard, or should I?
No, I just want to say I apologize for being late. No matter how hard I tried to get here on time using public transit, it's very hard. I want to thank you all for having this important meeting. I want to thank all of our stakeholders and community partners behind me. I'm sorry, I'm sitting with my back face towards you and everybody here, and looking forward to having a fruitful and constructive dialogue. We have a lot more work ahead of us. By no means this is something that we're happy about, but it's certainly something that is a priority of this administration and our cabinet. So thank you for having us, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, just thank you very much, Chief, for coming. I don't even think you're on the official invite list, so you know you're late for a meeting we weren't expecting you to be at. So I think it just speaks to your dedication on this issue that you're here today, and I just want to thank you for appearing and helping us address this issue. Back to you, Jody.
Great. Thank you, Chief. So for the past few times that we have been here, counselors on this committee, and especially Counselor Julia Mejia, has asked us to create a dashboard through which we could better present the data on hiring outcomes from the Boston Resident Jobs Policy. I am extremely pleased today that we are able to show you the Boston Resident Jobs Policy dashboard. And I want to start by saying that it was completely made possible by the investment that was made in having all of our Boston Resident Jobs Policy data moved to Salesforce and using a Salesforce platform. And Manager Christopher Brown is going to talk more about the benefits of that as we move forward on the presentation. It allows users to look at BRJP compliance data by year, by project, by contractor, by subcontractor, or by any combination of those. It's available on our website, and for all of you that received a PDF of these slides, the link is right there. And this is what it looks like. And this is, you get, when you first arrive at the dashboard, what you see is the historic of all worker hours tracked by the Boston Resident Jobs Policy over time. The summary is here, and then you can use the filters to get whatever data you like. And we know that we've used it to look at specific contractors and subcontractors, look at their progress not only by project, but globally across all the time that they've worked with in the city of Boston. So we are extremely excited to finally have this dashboard and look forward to any questions or comments that you may have with regards to how to use it. And with that, I will hand it over to Christopher for a little bit of background and then the data that we have for the last 6 months on Boston Resident Jobs Policy. Chris?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jody, and good morning, Council. So the BRJP program is a 40-year program. It originally created in 1983, and it covered private development, over 100,000 square feet, and also public projects. And in 1983, the original percentages were 50% Boston resident, 25% people of color, and 10% women, and it was all based off of work hours. And so it has been updated since. In 1985, it was updated, and also the current ordinance that we have, which was updated January 25th, 2017. So with this this 2017 ordinance, it brought the percentages up to 51% Boston resident, 40% people of color, and 12% women. And also, it created the 7 compliance measures, which is all have fines and potential sanctions associated with them. And so the 7 compliance efforts are attending pre-construction meetings, providing weekly certified payrolls, attending corrective action meetings, appearing at the Boston Employment Commission meeting, providing communications and confirmations, providing referrals to the jobs bank, and also verifying Boston residents. Any person that submitted on the certified payrolls with a Boston address, they have to prove it by submitting a copy of his driver's license or a recent utility bill. So moving on to the monitoring team. So we have 8 monitors currently, and we monitor on average 120 construction projects per year. And so the public projects, there's 4 line departments, and those departments are the Mayor's Office of Housing, formerly D&D, Public Facilities Department, Parks and Recreation, and Public Works. And again, we also monitor the private projects that are 50,000 square feet or greater. And the next slide just shows you the monitoring process from start to finish. And so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next. All right, so now we're at projects breakdown. We're going to talk work hours. So this, we come before the council every 6 months. So this period covers April 1st, 2024, up until September 30th, 2024. So we had approximately 121 total projects. That included 31 private projects, which are also known as development impacted projects. And those are the projects that are 50,000 square feet or greater. And then we had 90 City of Boston projects. Those are the public projects. Those projects are funded entirely or apportionately by city finances. Of those 90 projects, 24 was from public facilities, 15 from the Parks Department, 22 from Public Works, and 29 from the Mayor's Office of Housing. So within the 6-month period, the total work hours ended up being 4,674,698 hours. So those hours includes all the private projects, all the public. And so usually the private projects, you have a 3-to-1 ratio in terms of work hours. And as you can see, for the private projects, we had 3,568,000 hours. And so the numbers were 22% Boston resident, 38% people of color, 7% women. And for the public projects, we had over 1 million hours, 22% Boston resident, 51% people of color, and 6% women. So that gives you the grand total of 4,674,000 hours. And so 22% Boston resident, 41% people of color, which is exceeding the 40% goal. And then we have the 7% women work hours. And then, so the next slide, it gives you a breakdown of all the different neighborhoods. As you can see, Dorchester is the biggest neighborhood, so usually Dorchester ends up having the most projects, and then Roxbury, you can see, has 18. And so the last column is various locations. That talks about, it's 14 projects. So what that is we have public works projects, and you might have a contract that covers different streets, different areas. And so when that happens, they're put in the various locations category. And so the next slide is for the public projects. And again, the Mayor's Office of Housing, which is usually, has the most hours. As you can see, 523,000 hours. They're at 24% resident, 65% people of color, and 6% women. Parks, which is a smaller department, 22,000 hours, 18% resident, 33% people of color, 5% women. Then we have public facilities, almost 500,000 hours, 20% Boston resident, 38% people of color, 7% women. Then in last place, Public Works, Again, a smaller department, 73,000 hours, 31% resident, 40% people of color, and 7% women. The chart that you're looking at now is a historical chart, so we were able to gather data back from 1989 all the way up to 2023. The next time we meet, we should have the data for 2024, as we're not completely finished with this year. As you can see, the work hours have increased, and the program has, in my opinion, has had a big impact on people of Boston, people of color, and women. And so if you look at the later years, like 2019, you can see that we're up around 8 million work hours for that year, but 1989, we started off at a smaller, not as many projects back then, a lot more projects, so that means a lot more work hours today. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Jody.
Thanks, Chris. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about the pipeline, which is so important. The main tool through which the Boston Resident Jobs Policy Ordinance requires that or provides a mechanism for people to be in the pipeline for these jobs is the Boston Resident Jobs Policy Jobs Bank. So this is what's required in the ordinance, that we shall operate a referral program called the Jobs Bank, which shall refer city residents, people of color, and women to general contractors. We have a Boston Resident Jobs Policy Jobs Bank coordinator, Janine McLaren, who works full-time on this effort. And this is a little bit about what it looks like. Janine, candidates are recruited directly through stakeholders, community partners, special events. There is a QR code both on our website and that is used at job sites that allow candidates to register for the Jobs Bank via smartphone. We have a smart link that also takes candidates to the BRJP website to allow them to register there. Once registered, all candidates are contacted within 48 hours and submit their resume and materials, and then those candidates are shared when requests come in from contractors and subcontractors. And candidates also receive information on training, education, apprenticeship opportunities, and contractors use something called the labor request form to request these folks. So we have a process, and we also are connecting our Jobs Bank coordinator directly with the construction monitors who are working closely to ensure that contractors and subcontractors are utilizing the Jobs Bank to recruit labor. And this, since our last meeting, the Jobs Bank held a construction jobs and information fair on October 3rd, which was super successful. 182 people registered, and as a result of that fair, over 80 people registered for the Jobs Bank between September 26th and October 3rd, the day of the fair. So we had quite a good turnout. The slide shows the list of the folks who were at that fair that day and the flyer. In addition, we are utilizing the tool of free OSHA 10 training to also recruit folks to the Boston Resident Jobs Policy Jobs Bank. As folks know, OSHA 10 is required if you want to work on a public construction site. For many workers, it's a barrier. So we are providing free multilingual OSHA 10 training to Boston residents to break down that barrier. And that's both to provide them with important safety training, but also to help them be able to access the training program or the jobs and other programs of the Boston Resident Jobs Policy Jobs Bank. And then I also want to point out one other thing that happened over the last 6 months. We had an apprenticeship fair. It was hugely successful. I want to thank many of our colleagues sitting behind me for taking their time to be at that apprenticeship fair. We had over 400 people registered, and it was a packed house. Many of the trades and building trades were in attendance. Again, thank you to the folks sitting behind me. It was an excellent opportunity for Boston residents to gain access to apprenticeship opportunities in the city of Boston. And I do want to talk a little bit about sanctions. This is something that comes up at every
every one of our hearings. We know that we want to find ways of holding contractors accountable. And for the ways that contractors can comply with the Boston Resident Jobs Policy, they have 3 ways of doing that. Actually meeting the BRJP workforce standards, which you saw, especially with relation to Boston residents, it is often a challenge, though we see that we're oftentimes meeting and exceeding the numbers for people of color. Or they can meet those 7 administrative factors, or finally, if they can't do that, if a contractor can demonstrate the high impracticality of meeting BRJP standards, they can agree to sponsor a specific number of new apprenticeships. Those are the 3 ways that people or contractors can comply. And those administrative what they must follow, the 7 administrative sanctionable violations are here. We've already shown these, Chris mentioned these, but these are the 7 reasons or ways that we can actually sanction a contractor. And of course, we know there's great frustration both here on the City Council, the Boston Employment Commission, and for many folks that we cannot sanction based on whether or not a contractor has met the actual hiring goals, but rather or not whether or not they have failed to meet these standards. And these are the 7 sanctionable violations: failure to attend a pre-construction meeting, failure to provide copies of communications, failure to provide referrals, and this is related to the jobs bank, failure to provide weekly payrolls, failure to provide documentation of Boston residency, failure to attend a corrective action meeting, or failure to appear before the Boston Employment Commission. So we have been working to make sure that we have a very clear, transparent process for when we do utilize these sanctionable violations to sanction and fine contractors. The first time we used these tools was in February of 2023. At that time, we were sanctioned 3 subcontractors who were working on a project that was using the policy that was put in place in November 2022. Kaplan Construction is the general contractor on that project, and their 3 subcontractors were fined for late payroll for a total of $17,000, which was paid in full. Since that time, we've been working to really utilize Salesforce data to better understand late payroll and improve the mechanisms through which we identify projects which we should bring before the BEC for sanctions and potential fines. So I'm going to hand it off to Chris Brown to talk a little bit about what that process looks like.
Okay, thank you. So update on BRJP sanctions process. With the recent addition of the new Salesforce IT specialist, there is a more manageable way of using Salesforce directly to identify and track payroll noncompliance project by project. The Salesforce IT specialist has created a report within Salesforce for tracking late payroll noncompliance. Each monitor has a more manageable way of identifying and tracking late payroll submissions. Each monitor is reaching out to general contractors in regards to late payrolls associated with their projects. Contractors are being offered help via the Salesforce office hours, which are held weekly, in cases where noncompliance is related to technical issues. So the next page shows you, I just need to say that we made a lot of progress with the Salesforce platform, especially since we've hired the new Salesforce specialist. And what you're looking at now is a better way of us tracking late payrolls, and it was created through the Salesforce platform with the new Salesforce IT administrator that we have. And so this is specifically for payrolls, but we're also looking to use this platform to track the other 6 compliance measures as well within Salesforce. So the next steps, updated, more managed process for tracking late payroll noncompliance, and also again, as for the other 6 compliance measures as well. We're going to offer assistance to contractors via Salesforce office hours already in place. create a consistent, managed, and transparent process of identifying instances of payroll noncompliance for monitors and stakeholders. And so what that means is we essentially created a warning system. And so as you can see, the first step when a contractor is out of compliance with submitting payrolls, we were provided what we call a warning number one, which could be verbal or an email. And if non-compliance continues, we have corrective action meeting. And construction monitors will hold a corrective action meeting with the GC and the subcontractors. If non-compliance continues, another warning would be issued. Second written warning will be given to general contractor. If non-compliance continues, 15 days after the corrective action meeting. And then if the GC and subcontractors are still in non-compliance, 30 days after the corrective action meeting, the BRJP staff would recommend sanctions and/or fines to the Boston Employment Commission for approval. And once that recommendation is made, we will be following the process that was outlined in the November 2022 sanctions policy. Creating a tracking system within Salesforce for the sanctioning process is the next step. So we envision being able to log on to Salesforce and track projects that have received the first warning, the second warning, and so forth and so on. So that's in process. In cases where a sanction and/or fine is recommended, the BRJP dashboard, which is slide number 3, that's located on the BRJP website, will be used to ascertain the company's history of compliance with Boston residents, people of color, and women. And this will help in determining the sanction and/or fine amount.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
So I do also, while we're working on ensuring that we have a better process for sanctioning and fining for the administrative measures which all contractors need to comply with, we're also working to improve actual impact of the Boston Resident Jobs Policy and get better results on meeting the goals of 51% Boston residents, 40% people of color, and 12% women. And I wanted to just highlight a couple of the strategies that we're working on to do that. First, we have monthly meetings with all of the construction monitors where we're identifying best practices, maintaining consistency across all projects in our compliance methods, and creating monthly reports where construction monitors are providing data on all the projects that they're monitoring, which we then bring to the Boston Employment Commission. The recommendations for sanctions for late payroll process that Chris just outlined is a part of this as well. We are also communicating and sharing data with the City of Boston contracting and procurement teams, and I want to highlight the Mayor's Office of Housing, which has staff dedicated to this and working with us regularly, who we met with just last week. And you saw they have some of the best results in all of the departments, so it's something really worth replicating. And one more big update, as of January 1, we will be able to present work hours in terms of union and non-union work hours. This is something that we have not tracked, but we were able to go back as far back as January 1, 2024, and from that point forward, we'll be able to bring data here and on our dashboard and across reports we make to Boston Employment Commission based on union and non-union work hours, so we can have a better sense of the real impact. And we continue to work very hard on that. I know that our Boston Employment Commission chairperson is not here today. She was unable to make it, so I'll do a couple of quick updates on the Boston Employment Commission. We did have one commissioner step down since our last report. Commissioner Cannell Broomstein stepped down. We will be replacing her and are working on options for that will be vetted and brought to the Employment Commission and to the Mayor's office. And in the last 6 months, at monthly hearings, the Boston Employment Commission has reviewed 14 or had 14 special presentations and 14 project reviews. The project names are here. One of the reasons that we're working very hard on providing more data monthly from all of our compliance monitors and also using Salesforce to get better, broader global reports is because, as you can see, in 6 months, the Boston Employment Commission can really only look at 14, 15 projects when we're monitoring over 120. So we want to be able to bring them a better full breadth of data on all the projects we're monitoring, and not just those that we are specifically looking at each meeting. And I think that is it for our presentation. We are happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilors, I'm not sure who's here first. Okay, so Councilor Flynn, hold on, let me get this up and running. We'll do 6 minutes if that works. Just give me 1 second. There you go. 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank you to Jody, to Chris, and to Tran for being here. The important work that you're doing as well. I want to recognize Priscilla and Renee also that are doing outstanding work in this field. I believe this is a critical issue. I think the team here is doing the best they can. I also wanted to highlight that the Boston Employment Commission was established in 1985 under Mayor Flynn, working closely with others as well, including Chuck Turner and Bruce Bowling. And also the policy was enhanced regarding fines and discussing how much a fine should be if someone is in violation, recommendations for sanctions to be addressed. So I guess my question is, if someone is completely not in violation of the policy, are they eligible to bid on public construction projects?
My understanding is that they're eligible to bid, but based on the policy, the procurement staff can use their history with the Boston Resident Jobs Policy as part of their decision-making process.
I believe at one time, if you were out of compliance, that you would not be able to bid on city projects, especially if you were completely disregarding it for obvious reasons, including racism. But if you go out of your way to intentionally disregard it, that's different from if you made a mistake and you want to clear it up. But I think anyone that intentionally disregards the policy should not be able to bid on public projects. Do we have a record of that over the years?
I can check, I not to my knowledge, but I've only been here for the past couple of years, so I can certainly look into that and see if it's happened in the past.
Okay. So when someone is applying for a permit at ZBA, someone's applying for a permit at BPDA, or someone's bidding on a public contract, construction contract, how do we know that they are respecting Boston jobs for Boston residents, hiring women, hiring people of color? How do we know that before we actually award them with the project, with the permit? What are the steps taken to ensure that we do our due diligence?
So that is more a question for the procurement team, I think even more so than our team, but I know that there are checklists that I've just looked at with regards to procurement. If we have projects that have project labor agreements, that is built into the project labor agreements regularly. That kind of language is built in, but the procurement teams are the ones that handle construction contracts and procurement processes.
I was walking out of City Hall yesterday in City Hall Plaza and ended up talking to some workers that were out front of this golf company. And they were telling me that this golf company is not in compliance with community standards, basically. And that's on City Hall Plaza. There's another location actually on Summer Street I was going to go by sometime today or tomorrow. So project labor agreements are critical. They're part of this discussion as well. So I guess my question is, why? And I joined the workers there. I believe they were from Local 103. But why would the workers be protesting? Why would the workers be picketing or protesting this site when we know that companies have to be respecting project labor agreements?
You know, from a city's perspective, I think we have to do a better job with building a compliance structure that is accountable, that's seamless, and is standardized across different departments. I mean, we have $3 billion worth of procurement. And one of the things that the labor compliance and the worker empowerment cabinet's charge is to make sure that that back end is standardized, accountable, and works across many departments, because as we know, compliance is not just one department. It has to include the law department, the auditing, procurement, Boston Public Health Commission, Boston Works and Facilities, and of course, one of our biggest supplier is Boston Public Schools. So we're continuing to work with staff leaders and their cabinets to agree on a standardized procedure for compliance. It's in the works.
Thank you, Tran. And my final point is I certainly believe in the policy. What I believe more than the policy is the enforcement of it. That's the critical part, is we can have all the policies we want, but if they are not enforced, it's meaningless. I want to say thank you to the panel for being here, the next panel as well, and also members of the Boston Building Trades who are working on this issue as well. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Murphy?
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. I was going to have questions around what I think, the most important parts of these policies that we have are like monitoring and compliance, assess the outcomes, accountability and transparency, enforcement and accountability. You did a good job in your presentation, but I do agree with what Councilor Flynn is saying. We had a hearing a couple months ago about the wage theft. You were here. We had, labor, trade people here also. And one of the things that came out of that, the biggest thing for me was we have, a list of expectations, but it's never stopping them when we're not using the power we have. We're allowing people to pull bids, fill out bids, submit them, and even maybe get a contract awarded when we know that they're in violation of wage theft or of these policies. Why are we not stopping it from the beginning and not even allowing these contractors to start the process? And will we ever get to that place, do we know?
I can say one of the key things that our office has really tried to do is compile the data so that it can be easily shared with the licensing board, with our partners in permitting, with our partners in procurement. That's one of the reasons the dashboard that we put together here is something that we hope will be really useful, because you can quickly find out the history of any contractor or subcontractor with regards to Boston Resident Jobs Policy. So that's one of the first steps, and working with our partners, as Chief Nguyen has said, across the city to ensure that we can do the work that you're saying is really critical, and we're trying to be, the Office of Labor Compliance and Worker Protections is really trying to be a resource and a partner in that effort.
Well, we can have the information, and it seems like this dashboard and this work is allowing your office, different city departments, the public to access it. But what changes in policy need to be instituted to then actually use that power to then stop the violations? Because just because procurement might know, they're never stopping anyone from applying. It never happens. It's not like sometimes it happens. It's not happening at all. So was all this for naught? If it's just, I mean, it's good information, but if we're not using it to change policy, because my other focus was on like equity and access, and you know, what initiatives to me are like being put in place. And I know the next panel will probably speak to this a lot about what programs, like how are we going out into the community, and how many, like what skills do you need already to have to even apply to the Boston Residency Jobs Bank? And are we providing our, you know, city residents, our kids, our young adults, our adults, these skills to even be qualified? Do you know, what are the qualifications to even sign up as a Boston resident on the Jobs Bank?
Folks can sign up from the Jobs Bank regardless and then share what qualifications they do have, and then many opportunities for additional training, support, and access to apprenticeship programs are provided to those people. But I think one of the great advantages of having the Boston Resident Jobs Policy be now part of the Worker Empowerment Cabinet is because of the connections to the Office of Workforce Development as well. And this is why things like the apprenticeship fair that we had just last week is a real opportunity for that we are able to share with Boston Resident Jobs Policy Jobs Bank folks, and we connect the work of that we're doing around opportunities like the apprenticeship fair directly to the Boston Resident Jobs Policy. You know, we saw many of our partners whose numbers were lower in Boston Employment Commission meetings. They're at the fair looking to expand their membership to better meet the requirements of the policy.
Do we have data yet on the success of the Worker Empowerment Cabinet, it falling under that department now? And are we offering, do we have like real numbers of how many Boston residents got into an apprentice program, got into a training, got OSHA so they could apply for certain jobs? I
think our partners behind me are going to be presenting some of the data that we do have about the number of Boston residents. It's some of the data that's preliminary for our Green New Deal Workforce Needs Assessment, and I think it'll answer your question, Councilor Murphy. We also do have really improved data on those signing up for the Boston Resident Jobs Policy Jobs Bank. We saw quite a few people, especially during that time. What is more challenging and continues to be a source of frustration for the Jobs Bank coordinator and the folks in the Jobs Bank is that we don't get a lot of requests from contractors for labor. And when we do and recommend folks to the contractors through the Jobs Bank, we don't always get responses, and folks are not always hired, and we don't know how.
Are these contractors who have violations who we're giving contracts to?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. These
Shouldn't
are
we be
violations, meaning wage theft violations?
Or any violations to any of these policies that we put in place, because they might sound good on paper, but if we have this whole new department, we're spending a lot of money on offering this to, we hope, to get more Boston residents to feel empowered that they're even, that they see themselves in a job like this, and that they can make, I mean, I'm looking at these salaries, the range is great, but the percentages, like, it looks like 103 and 223 are at like 27, 26%, and we want to be at 51. I mean, we're not there.
Right. No, and again, I think
when do we use our power? Like, I mean, we talk about this at a lot of city different departments, you know. If we're not giving out fines about trash collection, it's like the cost of doing business to many of these contractors. And they're the ones laughing, and then we're coming here saying we have kids, right? We have high schools. Council Flynn and I just visited Madison Park High, and they're, you know, really trying to change their co-op model and get kids out into the workforce. And, many city departments don't even want to take the co-ops, and we know that the labor unions do, but are we preparing them to be successful? We have so many, opportunities for our kids, and they often end up not finding themselves in these jobs.
And I'll say one of the great frustrations that we have is we can have a contractor who is completely in compliance with the Boston Resident Jobs Policy, who submitted all their payroll on time, comes to every pre-construction meeting, but then the numbers in terms of the people that they're hiring from the city of Boston can be atrocious, and they're still in compliance. So there is a level to which we have to utilize the tools that we have, and but they are not perfect, and we have a lot of work to do to try to improve those and increase our leverage.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Braden?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for being here this morning. Good to see you. So I really like the idea of the Boston Residents Job Bank, and how do we, I think it just is maybe one of the best kept secrets. How do we get the word out about trying to get more people signed up for that? We our office, we'd be happy to put it out in our newsletter and just spread the word or whatever, just to try and get the word out to the neighbourhood and folks. Then the other thing is just the OSHA 10, the multilingual training that's required, job, site safety, etc. I think there's that whole piece about just getting levels of competency and certifications lined up so that folks can put, get past that hurdle. As you say, it's a barrier. And then in terms of the apprenticeship fair, where do we, I think it's great you had 400 attendees at the apprenticeship fair, but I think there's a pipeline issue, because I know when you talk to Brian Doherty and that, he said, we've got plenty of people that just, the employers just aren't picking them up, and how do we get past that? And then the other question, I just looked at your presentation, and I'm always alerted to when I see projects that are in my district, like Brighton High School, Northern Contracting Corporation. I don't know which project they were doing, because I know that there hasn't been much going on over there apart from installing a new locker room, I think it was. And then J.J. Carroll, which is a wonderful new housing facility for our elders on Chestnut Hill Ave, Delbrook. What sort of violations did those two companies? I know maybe off the top of your head you can't tell me, but what sort of violations were they infringing on?
It was late payroll.
Late payroll.
Yep. So we recommended back at that time a number of projects that had persistently late payroll. The Boston Employment Commission heard our recommendations across the board and then made recommendations for sanctions just for that Kaplan construction project. There were a number of reasons, primarily the actual numbers in terms of hiring for the other projects were much better. They had more people of color and more Boston residents on the job, and the Boston Employment Commission utilizes that information when making recommendations. So it was late payroll, but their numbers look better, so the sanctions that were recommended did not make it through the Boston Employment Commission. The opposite was true for the Kaplan construction projects and the contractors that were fined. They both had late payroll and numbers with regards to people of color and Boston residents were very low.
Mm-hmm. I'm delighted to see that Salesforce is really making a huge difference in being able to track all of this, because there's a lot of different data points that you have to track. And then in terms of what sanctions are available to, I don't like the word punish, but to hold contractors accountable. What have we got in the kit to hold them accountable?
For the Boston Employment Commission and the Boston Resident Jobs Policy, so after someone has been awarded a project and is working on the project and we start monitoring, we can only hold them accountable for those administrative factors: late payroll, failure to attend a pre-construction meeting, And again, this is of great frustration to many folks, the folks in this room, the public, and the Boston Employment Commission. But that is the tools that we have. We can make recommendations when someone has late payroll and utilize then their history to decide the level of sanctions and the fine amounts. And in fact, that's how the Boston Employment Commission has worked in the past. They've utilized the history of the contractor to determine how many or if they should fine and what the fine should be.
So the history is a critical piece of the story, because if they're persistent offenders, then how can we up the ante with them if they're persistent offenders, like put them on a list and say, this is a problem?
We also do have the ability to work directly with the awarding authority, in this case, the City of Boston Department. So we have a great relationship with many of the departments, and particularly the Mayor's Office of Housing. So if we have a contractor who's not performing well, we have the ability to work directly with the awarding authority and let them know, and they can hold them accountable for other measures, for not having enough people of color Boston residents. They can encourage them and have more leverage than we do as a construction monitor on the construction monitoring side.
Yeah.
Christy, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We do have. The thing about Salesforce is very exciting, because the dashboard, anyone can go on, the public, contractors, developers could go on that website and pull up data. We also encourage developers and general contractors and also the awarding authorities to reach out to us. We can provide more detailed data in terms of history of general contractors and subcontractors in order for them to make the proper decision on who to hire.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think my time.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Worrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your work on this, and thank you for the advocates and the building trades that are here today. Thank you for the dashboard. I am a big fan of data. But I also would like to see if there's any way that we could dive deeper into the data. I know on the BEC's compliance report, it breaks down worker category, and it also identifies the race of an individual. Is there any way to get that information onto the dashboard, expanded so that we could see it by race?
I would say yes. It's just a matter of us identifying the need, and then the Salesforce IT person could, put together a report. Salesforce, we've made great strides over the last year or so. I'm a lot more excited about Salesforce than I used to be, but I see that we have the support and the reports that we're putting out. For example, the union and non-union work hours, we wasn't able to track that. So hopefully come the new year, I'm very excited about the fact that we're going to be able to give specific data on union and non-union work hours. So it's just a matter of us going ahead and identifying companies that are union. First, we have to identify companies that are union and non-union. The previous database didn't do that, but so we're in the process of making that identification. And once we get that identification of all the contractors, their affiliation, we're going to be able to put together all type of reports, all type of ways.
Thanks, Chris, and Salesforce owes you a check now. And on the job site, we know that certain trades are paid higher than others. There's still wage disparities amongst trades, and even within the trade, right? I think there's levels, right? Are we able to identify the wage disparities to kind of see like what people of color are making on a job, what our women are making on the job? I know we only do it by hours, but I would love to see if we could translate that to a dollar amount to kind of see if there's any wage disparities.
Yeah, so I think with the prevailing wage projects, we're able to provide that type of data. Not so much for the projects that are not prevailing wage. So we don't particularly track the dollar amounts that the workers are being paid. It's more so the work hours. But definitely something that we could look into. And so again, not sure that we'll be able to provide, every person's, every, pay rate, but I think we can come up with something to give you a general idea based off the data that we have.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to see that, because then I think that would help us also understand like where we should be putting more of our effort to kind of upskill to get more of our women, people of color into those higher paying jobs.
I'll just add that we also bring, once a year, we'll bring our economic impact analysis as well. So when we come back to you in April, the BPDA researchers will bring with them the annual economic impact analysis, which has some of the data that you're looking for, Councilor Rell, based on they're able to average the salaries and be able to let us have some general understanding of what the impact has been for people of color, women, and Boston residents when we don't comply with the ordinance.
Got it. Yeah, and I love that report that happened, I believe last time we had this meeting. But I also want to make sure, and I know you guys did a great job on the website, but I'm a big fan of getting more information and data out to the public. One of the other things that I was thinking about was, once a project is done, is there any way that we can put the final report from the BRJP on the BPDA's website so that report is then with the entire project for the public to see, and it's also just part of the project plan?
Yes, I would say that's another aspect that we're going to be able to produce, and so I see that as being as long as we create the internal mechanisms in order to get the paperwork that we need, the certificate of occupancy saying that the project's over, and then we can find a way to transfer that information over to Salesforce, and the Salesforce as administrator, I think it's very possible.
Awesome. And 320 sites, and how many monitors?
Well, actually, within the last 6 months, it was 120 sites.
120 sites, and how
Right.
many?
So right now we have 8 monitors.
Okay. And how would you describe their workload?
I think they're able to manage their workload. So I'm able, as the manager, to provide each monitor with the projects that will enable them to keep track of their projects. And some monitors, like the private development, some are better with the public development. So I don't see. I think right now we have enough monitors in order to track the projects.
Got it. And I'm only asking too. I mean, we're talking about a momentum fund, a housing acceleration fund, right? We're trying to encourage more housing production. So if you hear Chris saying, you got it all handled, and we're trying to ramp up, this is your time to ask.
Yeah. Well, more is always better.
More is always better. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I have a couple questions, and then we'll see if my colleagues have any follow-ups. I'm just going to give myself 6 minutes here on my phone. Oh, Council President, I will give you a second to settle in. So I just, when you read the stories about this, about our enforcement, and we talked about how we started sending letters or fining people who don't submit their payroll records. To me, this isn't the kind of policy that's designed for us to enforce, as a city. And I do think when it came about in the 1980s, affirmative action was constitutional. Now, we've had a series of Supreme Court decisions which have just eliminated it. And so in terms of like what we can do to go after, employers who are habitually not meeting this, does that play any role in your conversations? I'm sure you talk about enforcement, but can you just give us a sense of, my sense is our hands are tied, and the more we enforce, we're worried we'll kind of lose it as even any, as a stick. So, Jody.
I think this is why we have started meeting with the departments within the city of Boston who are the awarding authorities who do the procurement, to be able to have regular meetings with them, share data, make sure they see how their contractors are performing, and hopefully come to us when they're looking to hire additional contractors, because once those contractors are on board and are not performing, if they are meeting those administrative factors, our hands are tied. But so it is more upfront that we can do the work, which is, again, why we've been starting to meet regularly and have created tools. We wanted to start by having the data, then meet with those who are doing the awarding, who are the awarding authorities, share that data regularly, make sure they know to come to us and that we go to them when we identify issues with their contractors.
Well, just in terms of penalty, I mean, are there any penalties you think that we could use or that we're not using?
We are still, I think the Boston Resident Jobs Policy Jobs Bank is one where we're looking at better utilizing it for when referrals are made and we don't hear back from contractors. And this is one of the first steps we've made, is to really loop the Jobs Bank coordinator in with the construction monitors to join pre-construction meetings and make sure they understand, especially those non-union contractors that can go to the Jobs Bank, understand their responsibilities. So I think we have some room to be able to identify and issue sanctions and violations with regards to use of the Jobs Bank's policy, and we're working on that and trying to identify a way that we can create compliance measures focused specifically on that as well.
Okay. And then I guess looking at the data either now or, when we sort of add in union versus non-union data next year, can we tell whether, for example, on our shortfalls on the just Boston residents, whether there is a job pool that we have people here who are waiting to be hired and aren't, or that is the issue that we're not creating enough, we don't have a pipeline for people, who are qualified for these jobs.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think from what I've seen is that there's a pipeline issue, the availability of workers. We are in a little bit of a slowdown right now, so some workers might become more available now than, say maybe 5 years ago. But in general, there's a pipeline issue, and in specific areas, specific trades. And, recently, due to whatever the reason is, financial, economical, I've seen a shift in workers in terms of Boston residents, especially on the public projects, and so. But in general, I think there's a pipeline issue. The outreach needs to be made to the younger generation in terms of them knowing that construction is a viable career path. The high schools, and I've said this before, I think Boston needs a vocational center, I think outreach along with any type of vocational center is possible, if possible, will increase individuals from Boston as far as being in these trades.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think these numbers that we're seeing is sort of like the BRJP is kind of like the canary in the coal mine. It's not that we're not enforcing this policy, it's that we don't have job training, we don't have affordable housing, we're not putting kids into this pipeline for these kinds of jobs, and so it's a sort of a call to address those issues at that point. And I think obviously with the dashboard, it's great, we can just see exactly what's happening. I just have one more quick question before I'll hand it off to Madam President. It's just in terms of the data, one thing that surprises me is just on the residents numbers, that the number of Boston residents is the same on private projects as it is on public projects. And so in terms of procurement, obviously that's something we need to work on, but do you want to address that? I feel like we should be, on public projects, we're hiring people in Boston to do Boston projects. We should be able to hire Boston residents.
So that's a shift that I've seen within the last couple of years. In the past, public projects performed better when it came to Boston residents. But in the last couple of years, it's kind of leveled off, and it's kind of like the Boston resident percentages have come down on public projects, and they're matching the private projects now.
For Jody and Trin, I mean, is there anything in the bidding process where we can, have you looked at that? Is there a reason why we're not doing it?
I think it gets a little bit to the pipeline as well, and affordability in the city of Boston. We do see people who are Boston residents verified on projects who then buy a house outside of the city mid-project. We see them shift because they can't afford to buy here in the city. So I think that factor's weighing in. Of course, in procurement, we want to do all the things that Chief Nguyen has said and work to ensure we have consistency in procurement when utilizing the Boston Resident Jobs Policy data and ensuring that contractors that are doing better are the ones getting jobs. Utilizing project labor agreements are certainly a way of ensuring Boston residents are on jobs as well. But the trend is probably partly as a result of the pipeline and Boston residents who are working construction in the city of Boston.
Okay, thank you. I just want to be respectful of my colleagues' time. Madam President Louis Jen, 6 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the administration for being here. Apologies for the delay with Thanksgiving, just making sure families all have what they need. I want to congratulate you, Jody and Chief Nguyen and Chris Brown, on the work of getting the dashboard up and running. I know that was a tremendous feat, but I know that it is going to hopefully be able to allow the public and us and everyone to be able to better track the data, the milestones that we're meeting and that we're not meeting. Chris, I want to thank you for your continued advocacy around the vocational center. I think when we had BRJP meetings last year, we talked about that. We talked about what a vocational center would or could look like in Nubian Square, especially as we put more public dollars into revamping Madison Park, into the Voc Tech school that it should be to compete with Voc Tech schools around the Commonwealth that are really excellent. And I was last night speaking to the president of the Ironworkers, who was just talking about his vocational education, and we need to make sure that we have that model here in the city of Boston. So I just want to be on record on endorsing that as I think a really good idea that we should be really exploring here in the city. And I also I remember this report on the economic impact of us not complying with the Boston Residents Job Policy, and how sobering the numbers were and how much money we're losing as a city. I think the chair was asking a question, or he mentioned affordable housing. And when I do talk to people, both in labor or folks who are trying to diversify the trades, they talk about the progress stunted, however it may be, when it comes to people of color, when it comes to women, but they talk about the Boston residency numbers, and because of the exorbitant cost of housing here in the city. Are there projects that your office is working on when it comes to workforce development housing, or are there projects that you champion that are workforce development housing to make it easier for folks in construction and the trades to be able to also live here? I do, Jody, you mentioned that once people, they may start on a project and then look, they have a desire to buy a home or to, have a backyard or something of that nature, but at least for the beginning pipeline, are there things that we're looking at on the workforce development side?
Yeah, our Office of Workforce Development invests in quite a few partners who provide construction training and support. Our office is also part of providing strategies around the mayor's anti-displacement strategies to try to really ensure a comprehensive process across the entire city with policies to help ensure people aren't being displaced by the the city. We focus on the compliance after projects are really assigned. But one of our key partners, and one of our partners, I mean, obviously that is a City of Boston department, but the Mayor's Office of Housing is one of the better departments. If you look at the numbers broken down, the people of color who are working on Mayor's Office of Housing projects is higher across the city than other projects. Is there a connection because they're investing in affordable housing and they also have the federal rules that they comply with as well, that they have better results? I think that's possible as well, but investing in the pipeline and being part of the Office of Workforce Development is part of the overall vision, and our office does invest in many projects, and many of the, it even connects to the Jobs Trust and the funds. Whenever there's funds going into the Jobs Trust, those projects, that's funding job training, particularly job training for City of Boston residents.
Okay, thank you. I guess I want to hone in on that a little bit more, and this is maybe even outside of the scope of BRJP. Are you ever engaging with corporations or with entities or companies who are in Boston, who want to come to Boston, and who have a vision for also developing workforce housing? Like, do we have a model for that here in the city of Boston? Do you know of it? Other cities are exploring it. I was at the Chambers of Commerce, the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, and they were talking about how other cities are really looking into, the companies are really looking into how they're tapping into helping cities solve the housing shortage. And I'm just wondering if it's something that we're seeing here, or if you've seen an interest or anyone biting the apple at how they themselves are tackling the housing issue, right, that the city is facing.
Well, I'd love to learn more about those programs. I think we do try to provide best practices to the contractors that we work with. Sorry, Chief, were you?
Oh, no, I was going to say, just in terms of time, I think that's an excellent topic for a different session, and we'd love to work on that more inclusive strategy. We do, workforce development in the office does work closely with employers, and before they are in Boston and while they're here, so that we have MOUs tied with employers' needs and link them to job training programs and community colleges that have those certifications directly into the vacancies of employers. So we do have that in various industries, such as healthcare, construction, clean energy, et cetera. However, I think it'd be really interesting to integrate housing into those two areas: employers, workforce development, and housing. I know that Chief Dillon has worked on workforce housing, lower income housing, but not necessarily workforce development housing.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's what I was curious about. And I'll just say that we have a number of new folks here in the city who, once they learn English, could be great workers in construction. And I know your office is doing really great job training, but if we're talking about making sure that we're able to meet our BRJP numbers, that's a source, hopefully, that we're thinking about how we do the connective tissue there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And it just reminded me, I think it was over the summer, New York City announced with a partnership with the Construction Trades Council of Greater New York that they established a $100 million fund to create housing for essential workers in New York City. So, I mean, there's a model to work, I think, with the trades here in the area to try to do something like that. We do have a second panel. I do want to ask my colleagues if they have any follow-up questions. No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I hope that you'll stick around, or some of you will stick around and hear our next panel. I guess we're going to have a second panel. If you're here, Priscilla Flint, Zykel Smalls, I don't know if Renee Dozier, Justin Ford, Raheem Shepard. If you're here, please come down and take a seat. just, there's another chair over there, hopefully. Is that one? Right there? Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much. Let's start on my right, and if you want to introduce yourself, tell us, why you're here. If you want to speak for a couple minutes about, what we've talked about already. If not, we'll go to questions. You'll have plenty of time to talk. So.
Mic on? Yes, it is.
Yes.
Hello, how you doing all? My name is Raheem Shepard. I am, since this is my first time here, I'll explain a little further of my career, my path. 25-year member of the Carpenters Union. I now serve as regional manager of Greater Boston. So with that being said, I oversee Boston in the whole, and I was in the field for 20 years, been on staff for 25. Grew up in Boston and fortunate enough to remain in Boston. And I think the conversation that we have been having today is crucial and critical. On our end, I can speak for Carpenters. Our goal is always to grow. I think we do a great job in recruiting and trying to retain members, but I also know that there's always room for improvement. And I would love to be able to, besides working for the BPDA, I would still like to include other staff members, other city councilors, and other people that work for our government, just to brainstorm and hear ideas like today to further just work on getting membership. And like I said, retention is one of the most important. Recruit is what we do, but retention is a key step to having a young man, a young woman start off working and living in the city of Boston, but yet maintain and be able to stay in the city of Boston. So I think one of our challenges is recruitment. As we look, there's not as many cranes in the sky right now in the city of Boston, which is now threatening the residents, the minority, the women, to have these numbers and these goals that we are trying to obtain. I think teeth in the process would definitely help, but on our end, as far as the Carpenters Union, we will always try to do our part to make sure Boston is one of the greatest cities in America. So again, this is my first time here, so I kind of would like to listen more, and then I would probably speak later. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And we'll ask questions. Everyone will have a time to speak, and so I'll just keep going. I mean, I do think one of the questions that we all have is, we see these numbers, especially on the Boston residents and women. Are there people who are here who live in the city who are available to do these jobs and aren't being hired, or are they simply, is there a barrier to access? Are they not able to get into the apprenticeship programs? Like, what's happening? And so, but I think we're looking for, for your thoughts on that. But just so quickly, let's keep going down the line. Yep.
Excuse my voice. My name is Justin Ford, local 17 sheet metal worker. Been in since 2012. Excuse me. Thank you. I've been in since 2012, and before I got in, I was working at a grocery store and at a car dealership part-time. So the union really gave me an outlet to get out and provide for my family. The hours are great. It gives me time to get out and spend time with my two children. When I first got in, I think there was 2 women in my class, and now out in the field, it's kind of hard not to find one. So I think things are going in the right direction. They're progressing. And I'm here because I think one job should be enough. I just want to be able to support that. I don't think we should have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. And when we reach home, when we don't have time to spend time with our family. So that's pretty important to me. When I was working the 2 jobs, I did have to move out of the city. And it wasn't ideal for me because I have a large family, and I was always driving back and forth for, birthday parties, any kind of celebration, Christmas, things like that. So it would turn into a lot of late travel days home because I'd spend most of my time in the city, and I worked in the city, but I just had to move out to make ends meet. So I just want to live in the city that I'm helping make beautiful. That's all. So anywhere that I can support, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, thanks. I think we talked about housing and how, it's really hard to live here and afford it here. And, I do think that these numbers that we've seen is just sort of a signal that there's a lot of issues that lead up to that job site, and it's schools, housing, the pipeline and everything else. And so hearing that you had to leave the city, it's something that I think we need to hear and, help us going forward. Sorry. Next.
Thank you, council members. Hi, everybody. My name is Renee Dozier. I am a 23-year member of the IBW Local 103. I worked in the field about 20 years and I've been in office about 3. I'm a business agent, and I understand the frustration of this. I get it. When I first got in, I was living in Project Hope with 2 small babies, so I understand the impact a union job will have on your family. So I shared frustration with my siblings here, and I gotta say, I really appreciate that dashboard because I love to expose. Like I need to see the data, and I shared it with my business manager, my other agents, and the Contractors Association. And whatever I can do to build bridges and make it happen, that's my job. That's what I'm here for. And I believe that the IBW 103, I know that we align with this. So, whatever I got to do, whatever we got to do to make it right, we will.
Thank you, Renee.
Good morning. My name is Priscilla Flint. I am a Boston Employment Commissioner. I am also retired from the City of Boston. I ran the payroll for the City of Boston for over 20 years. I also run an organization called the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute, where I teach youth around organizing, education, civic engagement. And I also have my own business, Flint & Associates. And I guess I've been on the BEC maybe 3 years, but I've been doing this work for a long time around Boston jobs for Boston people. And I'll leave it there. I'll answer your question.
Sure. Zykel,
Awesome. Good afternoon.
Do you have a presentation? I'm sorry, I was...
Yes, I will pass it to Susanna Bomi, who's on Zoom,
okay.
after sort of my speech.
Yeah, okay. That's great. Thank you. I was going to make space for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Good afternoon, members of City Council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Zykel Smalls. I'm the senior organizer of the Green Justice Coalition at Community Labor United. I run the Green Justice Coalition, which is a partnership of community organizations and labor unions, who's also representative here today, with a mission and a goal to grow communities, people of color, and working class communities in the greater Boston area. And part of our mission, is to advance environmental justice and economic justice towards a just transition to a sustainable green economy that works for everyone, not just a few. And our coalition is representative of the building trades that are committed to the city's workforce through ensuring that all Boston residents, particularly women and people of color, have access to good paying benefits and protections that unions provide to workers. So we're here to discuss the BRJP, an important tool designed to promote jobs for city residents, women, and people of color in Boston's construction industry. And the BRJP has really clear goals: 51% Boston residents, 40% people of color, and 12% women working on city construction projects and more. The BRJP helps to ensure that communities are not just spectators in the growth and development of our city, but are active participants in gaining opportunities for well-paying jobs and protections that they deserve. And I want to take just a moment to sort of address some of the different misconceptions that are, I think, at play when it comes to the role that the BRJP is doing and labor unions. And it's clear that there are some misconceptions when it comes to the sort of shortfalling of goals and even labor and unions' role in being hostile to the policy in and of itself. And these allegations have been, I think, really harmful, not just to unions, but the very policies that the BRJP is intended to support, which is workers. And the truth is that over the last 2 decades, unions have been making big strides to not only support diversity, but equity when it comes to the construction industry, and stand committed to achieving the BRJP's goals. And so we want to be clear that unions not only support the BRJP, but it's a crucial tool in building not just buildings, but the future of our city. And through joint apprenticeship programs, organizations like Building Pathways have worked tirelessly to create opportunities for women and people of color to enter the trades and succeed. These efforts include targeted outreach programs, right? So when people are talking about a pipeline, that's how we believe we can really get there. And in addition, we really believe that over the last 20 years, right, unions have been responsible for actually supporting what it means to be on a pathway towards accomplishing the BRJP's goals. And that through actually providing this, right, unions don't only provide just a paycheck for workers, right? There's access to real health care, retirement benefits at large and mass scale. And in fact, the building trade unions cover over 260,000 workers and their families under union health plans, retirement benefits for 40,000 seniors. And so these are not just good jobs for folks, these are good careers that we should be providing to communities. Moreover, we also believe, right, that PLAs are also essential part of this project and process. Right, PLAs address real barriers such as childcare and support services that ensure that workers can succeed on the job and provide for their families, and that these agreements are essential, right, for ensuring that the City of Boston's planned investments for schools, for streets, climate resilience, and green infrastructure are carried out with all kinds of diverse workforce, trained workers that reflect our city's values. Most recently, our organization, Community Labor United, and a coalition I run called the Green Justice Coalition, launched our recent report, Building Strong Careers and Lasting Infrastructure, that we've submitted to City Council members, that really highlight, right, the failing infrastructure that is currently sort of plaguing our state, and the deep and massive inequalities that come across race, class, and gender, and why it's really essential that PLAs are part of this conversation. And we also really want to highlight, right, that as the governor's, even most recently, right, the passing of the Economic Development Bill, affirming that municipalities and state agencies can use PLAs, we believe is a positive step forward to meeting the BRJP's goals. And we want to really urge City Council members to embrace PLAs for all Boston projects, especially those related to the city's climate goals. So in conclusion, right, we really want to not be able to undermine the ability that unions really have in being able to be a more diverse workforce, inclusive workforce in the city of Boston's, because we believe that unions are not a problem, right? They play a part in the solution. And so I want to pass it to my colleague who's on Zoom, Susanna Bomi, who's going to take us through some of the grounded research that not this report, but the upcoming report the Workforce Development Board is going to seek to use.
Thank you. Thanks, Zykel, and good morning, Council President Louis-Jean, Chair Weber, and members of the City Council. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I do have some data to share with you, although I believe that members have received it ahead of time. Can you all see my screen? I cannot hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, great. This first slide, so these slides were drawn from a research project that we are undertaking currently for the City of Boston. And what we're looking at are It's part of the City of Boston's Green New Deal Workforce Needs Assessment. So our focus is on joint employer union registered apprenticeship programs that are preparing Bostonians to succeed in good jobs in the growing green economy. So for this project, we gathered data on green jobs, job quality, and women of people of color participation in registered apprenticeship programs in the building trades. So the first couple slides I will be sharing are adapted from an October presentation to the city's advisory commission for that workforce needs assessment. And I just want to note that these results are preliminary, and the city will be releasing final results from the project in early 2025. So this slide that you're seeing now looks at the size and demographics of apprenticeship programs, and it includes all active apprenticeships. So it's really a snapshot in time based on data provided by the Massachusetts Department of Apprenticeship Standards to us in August. Each bubble represents a single program, with the size of the bubble varying by the total enrollment, right? So larger bubbles, larger programs have larger bubbles. Along the bottom, the x-axis represents the percent of apprentices who are people of color, while the y-axis represents the percent of apprentices who are women. So the 13 joint employer union registered apprenticeship programs we studied, these are the ones that are preparing Bostonians for occupations essential to a green economy in the joint employer union programs, are depicted in color. And for comparison, we included all registered apprenticeship programs without union participation and with more than 20 active apprentices, and those are depicted in black. So you can see the lines in green represent the averages for people of color participation and women participation. 33% people of color in union programs on average, 11% women in union programs on average. And for comparison, in red, you can see 22.6% people of color in the non-union programs and 5% women in the non-union programs. And I'll note that data on people of color here does not include Hispanic, Latina people, who are defined as people of color for the purposes of the BRJP, but are counted in a separate ethnicity category by the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. So on the next slide, we did the same analysis, looking at apprentices who are Boston residents, right? So I can call your attention to a few points in this slide. On average, over 70% of Boston residents enrolled in union apprenticeship programs are people of color, and 18% are women of Boston residents. Comparative figures for non-union registered apprenticeships are 55% people of color and 3.1% women. And I'll just note that there are 2 non-union registered apprenticeship programs that enroll more than 10 Boston residents, and those enrolling fewer than 10 are combined for our analysis. My final slide gives us another view on the relative success of union and non-union apprenticeship programs, in including Boston residents, women, and people of color. Important to note, this data includes all construction apprenticeship programs statewide, and you can see that the union programs train substantially more Boston residents, women, people of color, and Hispanic, Latina people than non-union programs. So we conclude from this data in terms of the pipeline issue that union apprenticeships are really training the workforce we need to meet the goals of the BJRP. We're not there yet, but there's this incredible progress and evidence of a real commitment. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. Is that all, Psycho? Yeah, okay. I just want to thank everyone for being here. We'll have testimony. I guess Ms. Flint, you've been on the Boston Employment Commission. I just wanted to know if you had anything you want to tell us about what you're seeing there, what it's been like, what advice you have for us. Just before my colleagues get into their individual questions, I think it would help if you want to speak.
Okay, so I have been on the Boston Employment Commission probably about 3 years since the mayor was the mayor. And before I became an official Boston Employment Commissioner, I attended the meetings. I held protests because they were not in compliance with the Boston resident job policy, which at that time it was 50% Boston residents, 25% people of color, and 10% females. And they weren't adhering to this. I've been doing this since 2012, since I retired from the city of Boston. And they weren't in compliance. And so, along with the Boston Jobs Coalition, Chuck Turner, we worked with the BRJP office. At that time, it was Carolyn Crockett and John Barrows. And we worked with them. We are the ones that changed the Boston resident job policy, so it's now 51% Boston resident, 40% people of color, and 12% female. And they're still not in compliance. A lot of these companies, developers, contractors, they're not in compliance, and it don't seem like they care. Before COVID, they weren't in compliance. After COVID, they're not in compliance. And we attend these meetings once a month and hear the same old excuses, the same old. I have some questions to ask myself, like, you have all these people coming to these job fairs and apprentice programs, but how many people really get hired? How many people get to jobs? You all know that we're being gentrified. Black people are being gentrified out of this city. A lot of the unions still aren't doing what they're supposed to do. I'm thankful for the ones that do, the carpenters and 103. I mean, at one time, 103 wasn't even that great, but they're changing, and they're changing because we keep fighting, and that's what it is. It's a fight, because I have protested a lot of job sites. I started with the Bruce Bowen building, and it's only because they say one thing and they do another. I don't understand why these contracts can't be enforced. Why this and the rubrics, the 7 rubrics, that's a joke too, because what we want is to see people that look like me on these jobs. I ride up and down the street every day, and all I see is a bunch of people that don't look like me on these jobs, and it's ridiculous. It really is. And I'm sorry if y'all don't like what I'm saying, but I'm speaking from my heart, because I've been doing this work for a long time, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. You all need to do something. The administration needs to do something. Before Mayor Cheryl ran for mayor, she always said, oh, well, it's the will of the mayor to enforce it. It's the will of the mayor. Well, she's the mayor, so where's the enforcement? Out of 7 years, we changed that policy 2017, January 25th. It was induced, and 7 years later, and we've only did one contractor for $17,000. It's a joke. This whole thing is a joke. Twice a year, we have this hearing, and nothing changes.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to get to questions now. Councillor Flynn, you've got 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and again, thank you to the officials that are here and the community members that are here. And this is probably my 14th meeting I've been to on this at the City Council, biannual, discussing this issue. And I always have said consistently that enforcement is really the critical part of it. We can have policies and update policies and expand policies, but if the enforcement is not there, the policy is useless. Thank you, Priscilla, for your comments. Priscilla, let me ask you, what recommendations would you have if we were to enforce the policy? How would we enforce the policy? What is the community asking for? And what steps would be necessary to enforce the policy, in your opinion? Maybe someone that's dedicated their life to this position, to these issues. Maybe your comments might help city officials. What are your thoughts, Priscilla?
Well, first of all, I think that Rubik's thing needs to go. I think that I don't see any, we know that these jobs are out of compliance, but there's not enough monitors. Like, how many monitors are there? How many jobs, projects are there? There's no way that you can monitor all these jobs and be in compliance. We only see 2 or 3 jobs a month. We only see 2 or 3 projects a month. And they go, and you see them in the beginning, you see them in the end. They always have excuses, and then they're at the end of the job. What needs to happen? You need to have more. For one thing, you need to have monitors, more monitors, maybe a different type of monitors, not maybe monitors that are paid by the city, these big salaries. Maybe you need to have other people doing these monitoring jobs, people that need jobs. There's a lot of people that need jobs in this community, and monitoring a job is not that hard. It doesn't take a whole lot. But the thing about it is the monitors only can do 1 or 2 jobs a month, a week, or however many times they go out there. I don't even know. But the bottom line is that there needs to be something that says the $300 per day per trade, that's a joke. It needs to be, the Boston Resident Job Policy Ordinance needs to be redone. We need to look at the people, the Boston Resident Job Policy Office, we need to look at the Boston Employment Commission, and we need to look at the administration and the city council. We need to all come together and figure out how we can make these developers and contractors do the right thing. That's the bottom line. They're not. They've been getting away with it for years, and it's time to stop. It's almost 2025. And you mean to tell me we can't monitor these jobs? We can't find these? They shouldn't be allowed to work if they're not in compliance. It's a contract. They break the contract. No penalty. They just keep doing it over and over and over again.
One of my council colleagues mentioned, maybe it was the other meeting, this is such an important meeting, which I agree with. We do it twice a year. And we have a handful of city council colleagues here.
Yeah, that's another problem.
But I think it takes all of us, all city councilors, to be involved, to be engaged, to advocate for the residents. If we're serious about this, we should all be here advocating for Boston jobs, for Boston residents, hiring women, hiring people of color, hiring persons with disabilities as well. But I think it's one of the most important discussions we have all year, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm frustrated about it. Let me ask another member of the panel, whoever wants to take it. How many compliance officers do we have throughout the city that actually go to these construction sites and review it?
I think that's a question for them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I probably should have asked it at the last one.
8.
8. And do you know from your experience as people that are active on this issue, is that enough compliance officers, or is there a need for more? Or if we hire 20, is there enough work for them to do? That's my point, I guess.
Well, they said there was 8 officers and 140 jobs. Projects on a daily basis. That's not enough. We're talking about a union person, right? So
right.
No.
Well, then there you go. Maybe during this budget season, that's an issue we can focus on. Do we need to hire and advocate for more than 8 compliance officers at this department? Maybe double it. Maybe get it up to 16, if that's a priority for the city council.
Chair, Madam Chair, you know, I do love numbers, I do love facts. Salesforce, we've adapted it, Impact, we've adapted it in the Carpenters, but 8 or 100 doesn't change the outlook on what happens after. And Councilor Flynn, I think you've said the same as well. But I know any step's a better step, but the end game is something we're looking at.
Yeah, you're right. It's the enforcement. The policy has to be enforced, or the policy's irrelevant. Let's make a commitment that we're going to enforce and make enforcement, and that should be a top priority. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Could I make a suggestion that maybe sometimes some of you city councils would come to on the Beck Commission so you all could hear the hearings? They're the third Wednesday from 1 to 3, and they're on Zoom.
Thank you, Priscilla.
That's a very good suggestion. I'm going to pass it off to Councilor Murphy. You have 6 minutes.
Thank you. I would just like to say thank you for that invitation. We do have our council meetings on Wednesday, so hopefully one of them that ends before 3, but that'd be important, or to have staff on there to see, because that's important to see what happens. Thank you for your opening remarks and your advocacy. My first round of questioning was more focused around, I think the frustration we all have about the enforcement and the accountability, that there's policies in place, but how do we get it enforced? So I would like to focus my questions on the retention. You talked about the retention, but to get them to even stay, we have to get them in the door to even know this is an opportunity. I can speak directly to you, Renee. I know that you, are such a role model to women in the industry, and, obviously electricians, they see themselves, and how do people of color, how do kids in the city, no matter what color they are, see themselves that, that is a job that they can have. And I know that you guys have a lot of great programs, and the data that your organization shared that the union apprenticeship programs have a much higher success rate. But one question I have, and if you could talk more about ideas you're working on to keep the retention, but you mentioned, Rashid, about like when they leave, like is there exit data? Do you try to get that opportunity to talk to kids who don't stay and find out why? And we did talk about a lot of people, we don't hit that residency number, and there's lots of financial reasons why. And I was looking on my phone to see if I could pull up the 40% mark for, people of color, or the 12% for women. I don't know if we're meeting that mark in a better way, but I think that, to me, is more important. And then fixing all the other financial, like the housing and others. But are we getting women to even enter the apprenticeship programs? And do we have data when they leave to try to, see what can we do to support them to stay?
Councilor Murphy. When it comes to retention with the Carpenters Union, we've been focusing on that. That is one of our goals that we have adopted. And with that, right now, with Salesforce Impact, like I said, I love numbers, but I love enforcement, I love action. We have tracked numbers as far as the exit, how long people have stayed, and people have gone. We have recently, within the last year, have encouraged some of our leaders to ask that question, to get feedback, and because that's the only way we're going to grow, it's the only way we're going to get better. So with that, yes, we have been trying to implement that. I won't say it's a success yet, but we are on the growing stages of that being something recorded. And I think that should happen with all agencies. Everyone should monitor and track. We can have job fairs and things of that nature, but we need to track where they're going, if they're going, when they're out. Let's use this beautiful Salesforce thing to its highest capability. But yeah, when it comes to, I just quickly want to say, when it comes to retention, we need jobs after. We can place someone in, but there has to be another job
Can't lay
available.
them off, yeah.
Yes.
same with us. I always say, you know how when you date somebody, it's all, you know, fuzzy and stuff, but keeping them is a different story, right? So you go to these job fairs and you get all these folks that are interested, but it's not easy work. It's hard work. You're out in all the elements. So for our women, like we have our mentorship program and our, I hate the word minority, but we have a minority caucus. So we have put things in place to make sure that our retention is high. We take it personally when someone wants to leave. What was the other question? Sorry.
Just like the exiting, if people do leave.
Oh, yeah.
Do you get that data?
Yes, we do.
To try, because I know in the past I've spoken with like sheet metal business agents, and they often say that, you know, they're saying, well, I can make more per hour, say at like Target or something. But is there like that? But you all know, and we know that financially, maybe the hourly rate is going to give you more, but in the long term, the benefits and the insurance, and also, is there like financial education courses along with apprenticeship to try to kind of make sure people understand? And I know we fail as a school system to not do that, in, you know, nationally, not just in the city, to teach kids that, but to understand what that means to have, you know, a retirement fund, to have health insurance, to have paid sick days. And they're looking at that dollar amount and oftentimes jumping for that.
Yeah, that's baked into our apprenticeship program, that kind of education.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Murphy, for this. I think, yeah, I mean, I want to highlight the benefit, because I think there's one conversation about enforcement, but we don't want to enforce what we, I think what's important here is that we want to make more investments, right? And I think through utilizing PLAs, I mean, I want to highlight part of what our report does really well is, I think when it comes to this question of how do we get more women in the trades, I mean, PLAs can also have the capacity to actually not only produce, but even pilot non-traditional childcare opportunities for workers on specific sites and projects. And so the Boston Winthrop Center, I think, is a great example of a really successful pilot that had non-traditional childcare hours for workers and apprentices, so that we can relieve some of those barriers to entry that women and especially single mothers really face in terms of barriers to entry. And so now that PLAs are now able to be used on publicly funded projects as well, this is a huge opportunity to increase some of those numbers and what that looks like.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Council President Louis Jen.
Thank you. Thank you to this esteemed panel for being here. I really appreciate all the work that you do, and I just want to go on record endorsing Councilor Flynn's idea during the budget process of advocating for us hiring more monitors. And I know that that's something that Chris Brown is going to appreciate, because it's something that he's talked about. And so, Priscilla, I want to thank you for elevating that. You have my commitment during the budget process for us to be advocating for more monitors. I think that's something that's really important. And so I know that, you know, Councilor Weber, Councilor Flynn, so many of us care deeply about that. And you have our commitment during the budget cycle that hiring more city employees, especially in this department where it's about compliance and making sure that we are able to get people to help us do the work of enforcement with the Boston Residents Job Policy on board 1,000%. And I also just want to thank all of you. You know, Rahimi made a comment that it's not just about hiring monitors, because you want, it's sort of like you want the work of prevention is always on the front end, right? Like, how are we investing in people to actually get in these jobs? And I just want to thank all of you, because we have a panel full of Black and brown folks, predominantly from the union, and I think it's important. One of the best ways of really pushing that change is from within, and you all are doing that, trying to create systems change from within, and I know that it's not easy, but I know it's because you believe in labor, you believe in labor as, in unions as an equalizer, as an entrant for folks into the middle class, right? That's why folks like Priscilla, that's why folks like former City Councilor Chuck Turner fight so hard on the BRJP, because they know the value of unions in creating stable households with middle class income. So I just want to thank you, because I also know that sometimes maybe it can be a lonely place to be advocating for what we want to see, right? We want to see more women, more people of color, more Boston residents. And I do want to say that we have seen change. We have seen an increase in the percentage of women. I mentioned the Boston numbers because I think those are where we're actually seeing some backsliding because of how expensive it is. And we've been seeing some progress on people of color, on Black folks, but I think the issue that we will all talk about and that we might all agree on is the pace of the progress that we're seeing. And it's not happening at the speed that many of us want to see. So I always want to champion, I see Josue back there, Mia, I always want to champion unions having people in-house who are really focused on the question of how do we diversify our unions so that when people come for us, we're able to say that we are doing everything we can, that we're working as hard as possible to make sure that that people of color are in our ranks such that there is no argument for why we shouldn't be supporting labor. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about, or I'd like to hear a little bit about what that looks like internally, doing that work of making sure you are recruiting more people of color, recruiting more women. I know building pathways as an excellent entry method of that. I've always talked about, is there a way that we could get more graduating classes of building pathways so that because it's a pipeline question at this point. And so what are we doing to increase that pipeline? Of course, there's also, we could talk ad nauseum about Madison Park and what that's going to take. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it looks like internally in your unions to do that work, and what advice you sort of give to other partners in labor to sort of copy your models that I think have been successful at 103, at the Compradors, at some of our other trades as well.
I could say I'm proud of my union because the past 4 years, our apprenticeship classes have been 51% women and people of color. And that's just the intentionality of it. I'm proud to say that, to be a part of that. And the outreach that we do. And the sad part about this is that the other side of this, we need more work. We need these project labor. You give us the work, we're gonna put people to work, And that's been a barrier. Like you said, the cranes, you don't see any more cranes and not as many, and that's a problem. But go back to our outreach, weekly we're doing it. And then we have our, in January we have our apprenticeship is opening up, and we have classes for the aptitude test, just letting people know that this is available to you. We're in the community. People know who we are because we're doing the work.
Yeah, can I add to that, Renee? I think one of the fascinating things I've been able to learn through attending some of the walkthroughs of IBEW and sheet metal workers is for example, so unions have a 3-year outlook into how many projects they have available to them and that they're fighting for with incredible business agents. And they'll use that 3-year outlook and list of projects to then identify how many apprentices each year they let into their programs, right? It's one of the unique differences that happens versus the workforce development model, right? Where people are often paying into training programs of their own money with no job guarantee at the end, where unions have been deeply scientific in saying, here's the 3-year projected outlook, here's then the number of apprentices that we can hire every single year to guarantee them a job at the end of the program. And so exactly as Renee's saying, right, through actually having more work and more projects, that number of apprentices can then increase. It's just one of the things that we want to become more public knowledge and part of the conversation, right? And so that's one of the unique differences of what we see not working in the workforce development model, right? Where people, communities, working class communities especially, are paying into job programs to become things like a solar panel installer and not actually in a pipeline to become an electrician, right? Because there's actually no such thing as a solar panel installer, and that's not something we should be investing in, right? We should be working towards pathways towards licensed electricians, and that's what IBEW does well, right? It's been around for 125 years, and is a proven method of actually supporting more people of color and women getting into the trades.
I just want to say one more thing. So we have our jurisdiction is right before New Hampshire to Foxborough. So you go into our apprenticeship program, you'll see into our any day of the week, you'll see a very diverse apprenticeship. And not a lot of our Boston residents are working in Peabody or in Foxborough, blah, blah, blah. And I know that's not what folks want to hear, but my I want to keep my people working, no matter where they're working. I want to keep them working, so they can pay into their health and benefits and get their wages. So you guys have my perspective, and I know this is extremely important as well. But just so you know that a lot of our folks are everywhere. Thank you.
Yeah, we're here to hear from you, so if you got something to say. Oh, yeah, you're up.
All right. As far as recruitment goes, an idea that some of my colleagues have thought of is, I heard you say Madison. Yes, we know. We're always going to talk about Madison, but in general, the school systems with the guidance counselors, what better person to come into a union that has gone through a schedule, meaning waking up to go to school at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, getting off at 3. If they play sports, staying there till 6, 7 o'clock at night. But then maybe they don't make it to college because we've seen the shift from college to trades. And with that being said, now you have a young man, young woman, a person from Boston that is used to a regiment and can transition much easier into a regimen of waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning to attend these job sites and just, alive, and they were studying every day, so now they're willing to continue their education, but just not through books of college. But every program we have, every trade we have excellent apprenticeship programs where they will continue to learn with books as well. So one thing the Carpenters Union has done in the last 4 or 5 years is we used to all have to go to Millbury every 6 months to train. Then we decided to make space available at 750 Dorchester Ave, so students or apprentices would not have to travel to Millbury, because at 17, 18, you might not have the access to make it to Millbury. I think everyone remembers their first car. You'd be scared to go on the pike in that thing. So with that, we're all trying to make changes to help in as many ways possible. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, thank you. Is that
that's
it?
That's my time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, just a couple comments. I feel like if you looked at this policy when it came about in the 1980s, you had goals to meet, and we weren't meeting the goals on any of the 3 fronts. But there were more people from Boston, working than people of color in these jobs. And I assume at the time, if you had asked people, what do you think is going to happen? I don't think they would have predicted that at this point we'd be seeing the goals met for people of color, because that is what's happening. As over 50% people of color working on public projects in Boston, close to 40% on private projects, and us not coming even close on the Boston the residents part. And I for the people of color part, I think the unions have stepped up, and they've been able to provide a labor force that's diverse. Things like cost of housing, it's not something the unions have any control over, and so it's hard to have people who are living here. And so I do want I really think the unions in Boston have delivered on that. You go back 40 years and you can see a steady increase, and right now we're at the threshold on workers of color in terms of Boston residents and continuing to meet those goals. I do think, to Ms. Flint's point about enforcement, I've been a workers' rights attorney for 18 years. I represented migrant farm workers in the South. I've represented construction workers, food delivery workers. I've represented cable installers. Name it, I've represented them. And we're in a climate at this point where we've got rules in place that prohibit us from doing certain things. For example, there's this case is Ricci versus the city of New Haven, and New Haven had a firefighters exam. They said, if we do these promotions, we'll promote no firefighters of color, and so we're not going to use this exam. The white firefighters sued and said, we're being discriminated against. And even though I think Judge Sotomayor, this is on the Supreme Court now, is in the Second Circuit, said that this is not discrimination, they're trying to further diversity, the Supreme Court said, this is discrimination. And that's, and just last year, the Supreme Court struck down the admissions policies of Harvard and North Carolina. And, you can't even look at race in admissions policy. So I do think there's a desire to have these goals met. In terms of what we can do to enforce these numbers, I don't know, and I think it's up to us to work and find ways to do it. And obviously, I don't think we're doing enough. But it's not as simple as, I do think it's, as a legal matter, it's not as simple as us just snapping our fingers and sending fines to construction companies. They'll challenge these and probably get thrown out. So I do think, but it is, I'll definitely attend a Boston Employment Commission hearing and see what's going on. I do think that, in terms of, we do have a worker empowerment cabinet that this is not the first thing we've heard from them where, we've had this policy, it's never been enforced, we're now enforcing it. So I am encouraged to hear that they're actually going after contractors who aren't submitting their payroll records on time, because I think they don't want us to know what's actually happening and who they're hiring. So, hopefully that helps, but I think it is going to be up to us to work on it. In terms of, I guess, to the union members here, what does it look like on the ground in terms of us being able to hire people? Do you think, is this, are us not meeting the goals? Like, where do you think we can improve? It's either, are bids going out to the lowest bidder, non-union contractors who don't have the kinds of workers that we want, or is it that we're just not having enough projects, or what should we be looking at for the sort of source of these issues? Simple question.
Yep, I think project labor agreements, and you know what? We already have the policy. Like, why isn't it? It's not. They should be able to look at that. We already have something started. I mean, we're already doing the work, and it's not being adhered to. So I'm thinking project labor agreements, holding folks accountable, especially the non-union. I hate to bash the non-union, but they're worse. And this is just construction. This is what it is. But we're doing our part to make it better, but I don't want to be put in the same category as them, because they're not doing the work. And I just think, like, I worked at the casino, right? There's a project labor agreement for, and we have the most women ever in the whole country. No one's beat that. We had the most women participation, and we did access and, what was it, AOC?
Access and opportunity, I was a part of that.
Yes.
For Encore, right?
For Encore, yes. So intentional, doing things like that with folks and just being intentional about it. And I'm going to do better with going to the meetings on Wednesdays, because the second, third Wednesday, whatever it is. Yeah, because I know you're tired of hearing about it. You've been doing it for 20 years, and here I am, let's kumbaya through, but we're going to get it done. We have to, right?
I want to ask a question. Why is it that Madison Park High School...
Sorry, Ms. Flynn, can you just talk into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, why is it Madison Park?
Why isn't Madison Park High School more of a training program as a pipeline? It seems like they're there, but they're not really there. I mean, it's like, I would think that you got a trade school like Madison Park, that it would be full of people coming in and out of there, people wanting to do the work. I think that there's not enough attention given to that school, or people going into the school like her. She could go in and talk about what electricians do and the carpenter. I think that you need more people like that going into that school to get the students enthused about it. For one time there was a lot of women weren't going, and the reason was because some of them couldn't find daycare for their child. When you got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and try to get your child to a babysitter, and then you got to be on your job at 6, that's difficult, especially for single parents. And I also work with Liz Skidmore, so I I've been around for a while and I see, and there are things that can be done. I don't want to tell it all here, but I would be willing to have a separate meeting sometime that we could sit down and maybe come up with some ideas. There's a lot of good ideas and things. You all just need to listen to the people that have them. That's what I think.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I guess I'll just redirect that question to the panel. I mean, so my thought on Madison Park is, I don't expect somebody who's graduated from high school to be able to get their license as an electrician, but that should lead directly into a program. What are the unions doing?
I think the electricians do a great job with co-ops with Madison Park. Even though I skipped past Madison Park, I did that for a reason, to shine light on something else, on public schools in general. But with that being said, we keep speaking the name Madison Park. Now you see, I'll just say, a lot of general contractors attending Madison Park and pulling kids out the systems. If you actually take a look when it comes to more in the trades of the construction trades, a lot of young men and women that are able and willing are getting the opportunity. I've seen this switch. I've been a part of Madison for a long time, and I've definitely seen the switch. It might not get the publicity, but they're there. I think when things are getting tighter in the job world right now, as far as new construction, and then they're going through, the public process of the BPDA, there's a lot of promises out there. We're going to go to Madison. We're going to do this. And some people are actually taking those steps. So we always can do more, but I definitely see further growth.
And we have teachers in Madison. We're all up and through Madison. We take the kids from Madison and put them in our program. But it's not just our trade, it's the nurses. It's like, why is it all on Madison? Like, we need more schools, in my opinion, that teach trades, introduction to trades, because it is a viable career, and you make great money, and not everybody's, you could do trades and college. It's not just, one path. But I think, my opinion, that we need more schools talking about the trades and having programs about the trades, for the trades. Because they do it in the suburbs, they're just not doing it here.
Yeah. I mean, I went to Madison Park in 2010, graduated 2014 through their hospitality and travel management program, did the OSHA 10 and got certified. And it's been it's an incredible school that does, through its first year, do a whole exploratory program in its first year and puts people in position. But I think, as people have spoken to, right, I think it would be really interesting to explore what could a PLA look like in collaboration and partnership with a school like Madison Park, in training and developing Madison Park students through like a pre-apprenticeship program, or different types and styles of apprenticeship programs that can be sort of utilized under a PLA would be an interesting option to explore. Right, because again, like, PLAs have targeted outreach, even by zip code, for certain areas and neighborhoods that can be used on a whole assortment of different projects. And so that kind of collaboration would be, I think, really interesting. And I know Madison Park has new leadership that has also been really invested and critical in figuring out what this could really look like.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So we do have to bring this to a conclusion today, and there's another hearing this afternoon, and we have some public testimony. I just want to, I don't know if my colleagues have any final questions.
No, just thank you. And I did see your former students, Renee, who were teachers there at Madison Park, because I spent most of the time there in the electrical shop. But when you mentioned the others, like the beauty and the nursing and all of that, and the new head of school there is inspiring, and definitely seems to get what I think many past school leaders, for whatever reason, didn't really buy into, the necessity for the co-ops and the on-the-job training. Because when you were talking about, you just need those life skills to know, like, you've got to wake up early, you've got to have, and in your cases it's all different, but there's a uniform you have to wear, there's, boots and types of, things you need to know when you get to this job. And, we have bright kids who we just need to continue to show them that there's opportunities and that we're here to help them navigate their way there. So our partnerships, I think, should just always grow. So thank you for your advocacy.
Okay, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you to this, again, esteemed panel for being here, for the work that you all are doing. Priscilla, Ms. Banks on the BEC and all the other ways to show up, Community Labor United, sheet metal workers, carpenters, 103. I just want to respond to a question about Madison Park in comparison to other schools, right? Like, there are wait lists for folks to get into other vocational schools, and people are placed at Madison Park. Right, it's like people, and it has open enrollment, and so mid-year folks are placed into Madison Park. So it's not treated as a robust voc tech school when you compare it to Blue Hills or other schools around the Commonwealth. And I think that is part of the struggle of Madison Park. Not saying that it's not an insurmountable one, but I think that's part of the struggle. Priscilla, when you talk about Madison Park, is that like not all the kids who end up there are kids who know anything or want to be in a voc tech school, but that's just where they're placed mid-year when they come in from another city or when they come out of whatever it is. And I think that's part of the problem. But I do want to, you know, in trips to Madison Park, I see unions everywhere inside of that school, and I see that deep investment. So I think what everyone always says about Madison Park is that the potential is 100% there. And when you talk to the kids, whether it be the kids who want to be nail tech or in the culinary program, you see such tremendous promise. And it is on us that we are not using that school to bring out the best in the kids to be able to be the next carpenters, the next sheet metal workers. But you see 103 everywhere. You see investments. You see the city's fingerprints on that school so heavily. And yeah, it's just something that it's a conundrum that we haven't been able to get it right. But it, you know, this is a city, the MSBA with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, we're investing more in Madison Park. We are, and hopefully we'll be able to see, and our kids will be able to see the fruits of those investments that have been a long time coming. So just want to thank everyone again for your commitment to the city and your commitment to making sure that our construction industry looks like us and looks like the city of Boston, and that everyone is able to share in the prosperity of the city and in what it means to be in a union. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I'd just like to thank the panel. This is incredibly informative, and thank you for your advocacy and everything you're doing for the city. I look forward to seeing you, Ms. Flynn, at a Boston Employment Commission hearing. We are going to go to public testimony now. If you want to stick around, there's about 4 or 5 people, about 2 minutes each, about 10 minutes. I guess Maya Jones, if you're here. She left. We do have written testimony from Maya Jones, so we'll include that in the record. Emmanuel Payne. Okay.
Do I come up?
You come up to that microphone, and then I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And
2 minutes?
You get 2 minutes.
Oh, man, all these notes I took? All right, let me see where I can start. Hello, everybody.
Let me know when you're
right.
ready.
Okay, I am ready.
Okay.
All right, my name is Emmanuel Payne. I'm a Boston citizen. I own a construction company here in Boston, and this is my first time attending this meeting. So I just wanted to recommend, as far as like on the Boston Job Policy Program, the guys who were here, I think they had left, but I agree with working on putting an enforcement on the Boston Job Policy Program, and also, if we can, when you do have your meetings on the budget, to restructure the actual monitors themselves, because if the monitors have no actual authority or any kind of way on helping the situation, to pretty much like us contractors go with what you guys went through today. Like everybody here gave a good, not you guys, the other ones, they gave a good presentation, but the whole bottom line is, as we speak, there are maybe half, if not more, unemployment, like in our communities. As far as now, as a subcontractor here in Boston, all I see is other, whether it's from the other cities, states, other countries, wherever it's at, they're all here except for, as we all know, like us. So what I was trying to see is if we can recommend, if the Boston Job Policy Program, or if Boston cannot come up with an efficient enforcement program or enforcers to recommend. I think I looked up there's a new Homeland Security located in Burlington, and they are, I think, looking at illegal immigrants, which are all throughout Boston, has been taking people's jobs like myself. And I would suggest that the Homeland Security, Tom Hoffman administration, work with the Boston Job Policy Program on enforcing, or at least look at who's benefiting from the Boston projects. Because I think if Boston taxpayers' money and if Boston citizens can't get projects and there's no economic opportunity here, we pretty much would be in this situation next meeting, which it looks like, according to everybody here, the next meeting review should pretty much be identical now. So if anyone or everyone is looking to make progress, which I think I have confidence in from what I'm hearing from the city councils that spoke addressing the issues, I think that we should really look at enforcement, more sanctions on the general contractors who are not even respecting Boston as a city, or the Boston City Councilman, the mayor, and everyone else who is trying to put together a fair program for the citizens of Boston. So real quick, I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak, and I actually enjoyed this meeting. I got a lot of information from everybody at this panel, the other ones also, and also all the council members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Payne. Let's see, Priscilla Flint. Oh, sorry. It's been a long day. Started with some turkeys, delivering them. Now I'm here. Okay. Ms. Turner.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having this convening, and to all the presenters and panelists that spoke. I declined to be on this panel because I want to showcase one of my members, Justin Ford, so thank you for being here. He's on our executive board as well, as a resident of Mattapan. Myself, I live in Hyde Park, and I have a couple of things to say in regards to everything that I heard today. So one, in terms of the Boston Jobs residency policy, I think there's a lot more that can be done to be proactive. We understand that enforcement is limited, but there are plenty of things that you can do to be proactive and take a page out of what worked for projects, for instance, like the Encore Casino. So that would be access and opportunity committees that were mentioned, but also looking at the core crews. Those are the crews that start the job, and making sure that those crews contain the appropriate amount of Boston residents or women or whatever numbers that are lacking. I can think of 2 projects in Boston right now where that's not happening, or where I see Boston residents picketing, and that shouldn't happen on any job in the city when we're not anywhere close to meeting the Boston resident numbers. So that's 176 Lincoln Street in Allston and Sprague Street in Hyde Park, where there are Boston residents who are picketing those jobs because they're not meeting the numbers at all, or even trying to. And that would take city councilors or other representatives to go and talk to those general contractors or subcontractors to make sure that even at the start of the job, they have those numbers covered. Let's see. And then in terms of Madison Park, I myself am on the Metal Fab Advisory Board. They have advisory board meetings every fall and every spring, where they try to engage industry partners. I see many of my union brothers and sisters there. And some things that have come out for the sheet metal side are one of our contractors have donated equipment to Madison Park, things like that. Obviously, there's a lot of work that can be done, but there's a lot of things that can come out of those type of industry partnerships. Also, a lot of our contractors are now instituting what's called the Heavy Metal Summer Experience to enroll, especially more Black and brown children from the city. It's usually about a 1-week camp in the summer that teaches the kids about the different construction trades, the different union options and routes. So we're seeing a pipeline being built from that. Also from the Mass Girls and Trades Conference that just happened a couple of weeks ago at Local 103, the Electricians Hall, where we're inviting all of the young ladies who are in VOTEC programs around the state, including Madison Park, to come and get some more in-depth education on what it means to be a construction worker when they graduate. So those are some recommendations. And I would also like to state that retention, especially within the sheet metal workers, is very important. Not only have we increased the amount of career fairs and where we go to recruit, but this is an initiative that's being taken up by our international union, which covers Canada and the United States. And the one good thing about belonging to, well, there are many good things about belonging to a union, but because it's a priority for our international union, we have real resources behind us that you can see all over the country. Our numbers are up in terms of people in color and women all over the country because of those, because of the substance that's put behind that. And there are many unions that are doing that. I can think of the electricians, as we know, the painters union, the carpenters union, there's tons of unions. And I would like to say that I often do sit in on the Boston Employment Commission calls, and I'm very disappointed with the amount of bias that's displayed during those calls. I've heard one thing in particular, one of the commissioners calling the diverse leadership that is starting to spread in the unions across the city, basically calling them tokens, saying, oh yeah, well they just put those people there, they don't really have any power, and I take offense to that because people like me, Justin, and others who are not in this room right now because they're doing their job, are empowered to offer our perspective and our voice internally to change the way that our unions look. And it diminishes the work that has been done. There's been a lot of work done. We know that there's a lot of work still to go, but we cannot chip away at the work that has been done because when we're not working together, we're not going in the right direction. And so I just want to thank you for allowing me to have the time here to voice some recommendations and some concerns. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. I think that's it for public testimony. Nobody else on the internet? Okay, so I would like to thank my co-sponsors, the panelists that were here today. I'd also like to thank Megan and Ethan from Central Staff for their assistance. So this hearing on docket 0475 is adjourned. Thank you very much.